Hello, and welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Achieving Unity Success Formula, a weekly podcast where we turn chaos into connection and purpose into action. I'm your host, Mark Intrican, and today is another episode about the Achieving Unity Success Formula, making life better by encouraging, inspiring, and including others. Well, I'm very happy and excited to say today's guest is Brittany Stinson, a TEDx speaker, operational strategist, and co founder of Seeding Greatness, where she helps leaders light up stages with stories that spark real change, true change, from overcoming burnout, health struggles, and a rocky marriage to tripling her business revenue in just 2 years. Brittany's journey is a masterclass in living and working from a place of trust and alignment. Oh, she's also a mom of four with another one on the way, plus a 70-pound sheepadoodle named Magic. But first, before we engage into this insightful discussion, let me quickly introduce my company, Reality Focused Dynamics, where this all began. Hope you can see the first screen there because my first gift to you, and I hope you will read it, hope you'll download it, is the Achieving Unity Guide. And it talks about ending anger, ending hate, and ending prejudice. And I know those are powerful words, and there's probably some nicer ways to say them. Anger, we have frustration. Hate, we have disconnection. Prejudice, we have prejudgment. We can end all of that. And I would love for you to read this guide now and give me feedback. You can get to the guide with the QR code on the bottom left. You can get to my blog and all of my newsletters, the QR code on the bottom right. Please take a look. Give me feedback. I'd love to hear from you. This is our weekly podcast number 47. This is exciting because this is every week. I hope you have this on your calendar. You come join us for the Achieving Unity Success Formula. There is a formula for success, and we can all follow the formula. We can all make it work. Come back here every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Hope to see you here every week. And then the logo. Hope you enjoy that logo. Something about that on that reality focused dynamic success focused solution slide, because as you can see in our logo, it truly represents the heart of what we do. Notice how focused sits right in the center? That's because everything we explore, from reality focused dynamics to success focused solutions, revolves around that clear, intentional direction. In fact, that idea of focus is so central to us. It's even built right into our business phone number, 303-362-8733 spells 303 focused on your phone pad. We believe that by truly focusing on what matters, we can create meaningful change and achieve lasting unity. So please feel free to give us a call, 303-362-8733, or call us 303 Focused. What we have to help going forward so that we have that reality and that reality focused dynamic with dynamics to get those success focused solution is proven compassionate strategies that turn conflict, anything that's a conflict, into a lasting harmony at home, at work, and in every relationship that matters. Where we can end things such as anger. Talk more about that in a second. Are you ever frustrated by tension or arguments? Our 7 step roadmap gives you the tools to move from that conflict to collaboration quickly and confidently. Get that pressure off of you. Are you craving a stronger trust, stronger connection? Discover communication tactics that build respect, repair relationships, and truly unify teams and families alike. Turn and transform conflict into connection together, achieving unity. What does unity do? It inspires us in our homes, it helps us shape our society, and it transforms workplaces. We help you turn that frustration into understanding. Have you ever heard anybody say, "What the frustration?" Okay, they may not have said frustration, but we can find value in our actions instead of reacting in that anger or that frustration. Because we show that anger holds no value, none. Anger is just actions, not gaining effective results. ANGER, anger. They're just actions, not gaining effective results. Yes, life happens in every relationship, from personal to professional, from parenting time to partnerships, in the boardroom, in the bedroom, in every room in between. Reality focused dynamics shows you how we can embrace those challenges and encourage a more inspired and inclusive future. One vision, one goal, unity in every area of life. What is our call to action? Well, let's ditch the drama. Let's get that stuff done. We will show you how to turn your life from what may seem sometimes like a dumpster fire into a well oiled machine. Achieving unity is the path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change. Coaching, consulting, courses, keynote speeches, workshops. Let us know how we can work with you. Contact us today, www.realityfocusdynamics.com, markentrican.com, achievingunity.com, or call us 303-362-8733 and become 303 focused on what we're doing going forward. Our upcoming podcast, please, again, every week. And remember, this month, all of August, we're talking about moms, mothers, and parenting that has changed over the decades to be so much better now ever before. And our moms, our mothers are truly opening up in so many ways that they're professionals. They're achieving so much. Come back. Let's talk more about that. We'll hear a lot today from Brittany. It's exciting. Next week, Jamie Martin will be here. Silence the doubt and start living life on your terms. You can do this. August 13th. Julie Lithgoth-Hames, How to Raise an Adult. You're raising your children. It's on August 20th. Then Martha Burek, she comes in and says, yes, you can raise happy, responsible children. That's on August 27th. And come back each week and join us. Then we start with September with Sue Patz, talking about the new beginning. Where are you today? Where do you want to be tomorrow? Come back September 3rd. Talk about that. September 10th, Scott Schilling, creating authentic relationships that matter. And that's what's important. When we talk about the relationships, we talk about all the things that we do, achieving unity, relationships that matter. Come talk to us. Love to see you here again every week. But here is the highlight of the day. I'm so excited to talk with her more. We just met about a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting, very exciting person, a very exciting knowledge, understanding. A woman that's gone from burnout to breakthrough, aligned leadership in action. Brittany Stinson is a TEDx speaker, a strategist, and co-founder of Seeding Greatness, helping leaders align with purpose and lead authentically from the inside out. After hitting her own burnout back in 2021, Brittany chose transformation to rebuild her life, business, and mindset with integrity and trust. We'll talk a lot about that today. The result? Her company tripled in revenue while her personal life flourished. Today, she empowers others through strategic coaching, heartfelt storytelling, and leadership rooted in real life resilience. Her journey proves that sustainable success comes when we lead with who we are, not just with what we do. If you notice in the bottom right, you'll see her. Um, is that your? I think that you have a. Did you have BrittanyStinson.com?
Yep,
For
yep,
your
that's the website. Yep.
good, thank you. I was thinking about your. I saw that and I thought, wait a minute, do you use your LinkedIn one? But anyway, if you would, please help me welcome the wonderful Brittany Stinson. Brittany, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I don't know if you've ever had someone sort of put their own spin on your bio and your story, but I want to ask for a copy. It's so awesome. I appreciate
Oh,
that.
thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to be able to touch people, and I guess that's why I was so excited when I found out about you and what you're doing and how you're growing because you have such a true statement on trust. And I love what you do. Watching your TEDx. Hope everybody goes out and finds your TEDx and watches it. It is so awesome. But I
Thank
am
you.
so glad you're here. And let's start off with one of your, what I call a co-star, maybe in your life. How's magic that what it's a sheepadoodle?
Yep,
And
he's a
how it handles all
sheepadoodle.
that kid energy? Tell us more.
I hope you don't hear him. You may hear him at some point. He's right around the corner at all times. But he's sweet. He's about 3 years old, so he's in his teenage phase. But no, he's just a big, giant puppy who thinks he's little. So he's great.
Does he kind of sometimes just want to jump into your lap?
Yeah, oh yeah, we have to, redirect down, onto the floor, not the couch, because he'll take up the whole thing.
There probably isn't a chair big enough for him. He has to take the
You
couch.
know what? The chair's behind me. He'll find a way to crawl up and curl up so that he fits. It's actually pretty funny.
That's kind of funny. And I think, like you said, big dog like that, but still thinks they're just a puppy,
Oh
just
yeah.
that way. But
Mhm.
on the other side of it, sometimes do they also feel like they're the real boss of the house?
No, he knows. So I have a 2-year-old son who is the
Okay.
actual boss of the house right now, and they get along well. But no, Magic knows the baby definitely runs the show.
That is great training on your part,
Yeah.
your family, to train the
Um,
dog like that, because so many people don't know how to do that.
no, he's a smart dog. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great to hear, especially that size and with the 2-year-old. How does the 2-year-old react with the dog?
So Magic has a really big tail. And so Isaiah has learned when we come in the house to kind of like block his face because his face is right at the tail level there. So they've found their way to like work around each other. It's pretty funny.
Oh, that is great. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to something that I mentioned earlier that I truly enjoyed, and that was your TEDx talk. Can you touch on that a little bit and trust and working with people? Maybe take a minute, introduce yourself, and talk about that TEDx talk for a minute if you don't mind.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. Going all the way back to my very like early career, I've worked in support roles for my entire career, either in nonprofit or in hospitals. And so over the years, I was working for someone all the time. And I didn't realize it, but I had really suppressed and silenced my own ideas and thoughts and the leadership ideas that were coming to me. And maybe here and there I would find a way to like speak up and share, but I didn't realize the toll that it was taking on me. And so there was a long period of my life that I just sort of was fulfilling someone else's vision and ideas and dreams. And then COVID happened, and the whole world sort of flipped upside down. And so, in that time, my husband and I, we launched our own online business, and he had been speaking on the side for quite a long time. But through that journey, early 2021, we both went full time into entrepreneurship. And I like to think of entrepreneurship as this giant magnifying glass for anything that you've got going on internally. It'll bring it right up to the surface because there's really not a lot to hide behind anymore. And so it was at that point, we got to the end of 2021 and I realized my health was at a terrible place. I was
Oh,
heavier than I had ever been from like eating emotionally, not just for, physical and health reasons. I was having heart palpitations when I would sit down at my laptop to work. And we really got to the point where we said the mastermind that we were leading and the people we were coaching, we just sort of had to, offboard everyone and take a break. And it was a long 6 weeks at the end of 2021 going into 22 of long, hard conversations, looks in the mirror. Like, I know we didn't get here overnight, but obviously we got here somehow. And I just didn't believe this was the abundant life that we had dreamed of and believed for. At that time, we had 3 kids, and I specifically remember, they would want to play with me, and if my 3 little girls, they want to play, and I would tell them like, "Mommy doesn't feel good," and that wasn't the truth. I felt fine. I just didn't have the emotional bandwidth to show up and be there. Um, so that's really where that rebuilding journey started. And that ties into my TEDx talk because as I went on the journey to discover like what's my idea worth spreading, which is, the premise of a TED talk, I realized it was all of these micro compromises that I had made along the way to abandon my choices, my voice, my decisions, and I had very little self-trust left. And so to build myself back up out of that season, it was these very small micro wins and commitments that I was keeping to myself that helped me rebuild and find my voice again and reshape our entire company. And our marriage looks different. The way I parent looks different. And it took a hard season to learn that, but that's where the premise of the trust cycle comes from. There's a cycle of distrust in my talk, and then there's a cycle of trust. And so that's really just examining how in the world did I get all the way down and then, back up and out. And so that's where the trust talk comes from.
I like that. And it's so true that each of us, even though sometimes we go really far down, we'll definitely go down, that we can come back up. And that is something that I just so appreciate that you're helping people grab onto. Was there anything that you felt, did you just say one day, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be better. Was there a trigger of some point, Brittany, or how did, what ignited your ability to come back up from where you were?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And I've been asked that question before. I'm glad that people have asked me that because I had to really examine deeply. It was November of 21, and we hosted our first TEDx stage, our own event in Metro Atlanta. And going into that, that's when the majority of like racing heart, all of those anxious feelings were happening. It just felt like the biggest event we had ever hosted. And then, like the very next week, my husband had a speaking engagement in Sedona, Arizona. And so I was able to travel with him to that. And you would think being in Sedona, it's a beautiful place. It was just the two of us. It was, I expected like, hey, this is really celebratory. We just, got through this event that was really stressful, and now we get to go to this beautiful place. And it was just like this really surreal moment of like, this isn't it. You feel like the big things and the big wins are going to be what you build them up to be in your mind. And then when you get on in the middle or on the other side of them and you still feel numb or sad or disappointed, that was really coming back home from that trip. I was like, something's not right. Something's got to change. And so that's kind of when we started having some of those really hard conversations.
Wow, that's pretty
Mhm.
impressive to see that. And do you feel that's what a lot of people go through? As you mentioned, you built something up and you have this big plan, you have this gala, whatever it might be, and then all of a sudden it's just not there. What,
Mhm.
well, I guess I like what you just said. You started having talks, you and your
Mhm.
husband kind of
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to, so I can remember a few times just sitting on the couch across from each other. I mean, we would talk for 4 or 5 hours about things that we had. I mean, we had been married 7 years at that point, and there were conversations that we probably should have had even before getting married. And so it was like, at that point when everything seems like it's falling away, for my pattern is, unless it's a crisis, I just want to keep on keeping on. Now I'm more aware of that today, and so I try to get ahead of myself and not let that be the case, but it is still like a default from the way that I grew up and what I saw was normal. And so for me, it was, we're in a crisis. I'm finally open enough to go into Pandora's box and have some of these conversations. So we talked about, what did this mean on our wedding day? Why did this happen? Why is this something we've never spoken about? Um, and then we looked at the business, like, why are we anxious to show up for these people? Why do we keep putting more money, time, and energy into this direction when clearly we're not enjoying it? Just really tough questions that really are not fun to slow down and ask each other. And that in conjunction with, I started reading a book called How to Do the Work. It's Dr. Nicole LaPera. It's an incredible book. It's very like basic level. You just start to become aware of what is going on, right? Like, what are the patterns that I run on autopilot every day? And so that book was really, really helpful for me in that season.
That is excellent. That's good. And there are a lot of books out there.
Mhm.
Can you give that title one more time for people that might want to see that same kind of action?
Yes, it's How to Do the Work, Dr. Nicole LaPera.
How to Do the Work,
Yeah,
Dr.
it's a
Nicole
great
LaPera.
book. Yep.
Because that's one of the things that we get into a lot of times. We have anticipation and we have expectations. One of the things that I coach on, and if those expectations aren't met, we get into a lull, don't we? We
Mm,
kind of fall back a little bit. And as you mentioned, we don't have that bright light, the bright stars that we think about, but the work still has to be done.
yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I had a mentor a long time ago tell me, don't ever let the highs get you too high or the lows get you too low. And I would argue a little bit on the high side, right? Like, let's allow ourselves to be as happy as we want to be and can be. But the point was, he had shared that with me right after a really big event that our nonprofit had put on, and we had spent months planning for it. And it's kind of that feeling like after Christmas, it's like, oh, I did all that, and it was, over in like an hour. And so there's a little bit of like post event sadness and blues. And he said that line to me. And I think it's a great line. But what I've learned is when that happens and there's all of this fallout after something really big, like you said, there's so much expectation around something. Um, there's probably a level of that thing or that external event or situation that we were looking for it to validate us or fill something
Right.
that's missing within us. And there's really only one place that can come from. We need to do our own level of that internal work so that the external is really just extra. It's not the thing we need, because it's never gonna do what we really need it to do.
Unless we do the work,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I love you've kind of given us, I think, a movie trailer version of
Yeah.
your journey, and I appreciate that. You went kind of from burnout to building the seeding of greatness, as you call it, or by seeding greatness. How did you come up with that title?
You know what? Interestingly enough, in that same season of that end of 21, my husband met a mentor who became a mentor to the both of us. And he's in his late 70s and he's had multiple strokes. And so he can't see out of one eye. And you know
Oh,
what? He is still deeply passionate about the work that he does. And he would just sit with us and talk for hours and try to share and pour into us. um and it was just really inspiring, but he actually had a company called Seeding Greatness, and he gifted the name to us to
wow.
continue that legacy on, and so we really honor him with that name.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, because I love that. Seeding greatness.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that it does come from a seed, right? You got to help it grow. It's got to be nurtured.
Hmm. It's funny, you're actually the second person this week to catch on to the starting small part of the name. I actually often forget that part of it. But I love that. Yeah, I mean that's
It's
the exact journey that I took. I had to start small, and I think sometimes getting from 0 to 1 is the hardest part. Getting from 1 to 100, we can do that, right? But it's the getting started in that really in seed form. How do we nurture it, protect it, help it grow? Yeah, so the name is really special to us.
that it sounds like it. That's what we want to do with Achieving Unity, is to be able to build that. And I almost had a tear come to my eye whenever you were talking about you and your husband spent hours talking. That is exciting. That's amazing. I wish more people would do that. That's one of the things that I work on with couples, to spend that time talking and don't be afraid to open up to each other, right?
Yeah.
Be
Oh, it
ready
was
to.
terrifying to me. He definitely, I can give him a ton of credit. He definitely led the way on that. But it was because of this, I don't want to rock the boat feeling. But what he's helped me see and what I've learned is the boat's already rocked, right? Like we already have these things that are undercurrents that are happening. And just because we're not openly talking about them every day, they are very much influencing us and impacting us. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, set some boundaries, set some guidelines. Like, how are we going to have these conversations using I statements and uh, keeping the greater goal in mind? Like, hey, we're having these conversations for the purpose of healing and reconciliation and to be stronger, not to point out all of our faults and, all of the ugly turns that it could take. But yeah, it was really important for us.
That's wonderful. I love that. And I like that term that you just used, the undercurrent,
Hmm.
because that's the current that we don't see. Like
Mhm.
we go to the ocean, people who enjoy the ocean, like I do, being out there on the sand, thinking about getting into the water. But we have to remember there is an undercurrent. There can be an undercurrent out there. So when we go out there swimming, if we're not paying attention, it can take us out further into deeper water.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to swim against. And that's why you have to swim crossways, right? That undercurrent can happen in our lives so easily. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you used that term.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you talk about trust, one of the things that I see in trust and in personal growth, does it seem that maybe trust feels more fragile today than it might have years ago? Why is that?
Yeah, I probably it's probably very similar though. That the opening line in my TEDx talk is, can you imagine if you were standing in the grocery store and someone came up to you and asked, "Can I trust you?"
Trust you.
It's an odd question, but subconsciously, we're all asking ourselves that question, in person and online. I don't think we realize it, but we're constantly vetting someone. Even like so I made a post that I want to be a podcast guest. You responded. There was probably a level on your part that you had to consciously or subconsciously say, can I trust her with my audience, my brand, And then vice versa. Is this a trustworthy person to engage in a dialogue? So I do think, especially with social media, especially because we're exposed to so much information and so much misinformation, that we all are like on this heightened guardedness. And I think, again, it's an undercurrent. I think it's like slowly affecting us that we don't realize how much we're running in the back. Like when there's a computer program running in the background and your battery dies a lot faster. I think it's like everybody, is this true? Is this safe? Is this trustworthy? Are you okay? Can I, yeah, I think it's a big deal today.
I think you're so right. And that's why it takes me back to last week when the podcast and the storm comes through, power goes out.
Yeah.
I didn't have backup. That's one thing I've got to do. And that's the same thing in our life,
Mm.
in what we do, and in that trust for, like you're saying, the trust of someone and to talk to them. And as we did, and talk and email to build that trust. But how do we do that trust with others? And then the next point that I want to ask about, it's your concepts and then your feedback, which I know a lot of, but you mentioned about not keeping your word in the past and
Mhm.
how to rebuild trust with yourself first. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, if we have a conversation about how can I trust other people, in my opinion, the first place to start is, can I trust myself? Because the way that I see myself is deeply going to impact the way that I see other people, right? We wear these own lenses of projection. And so for me, it was like, if I'm having an inner dialogue, it's just me and myself. Nobody else even knows. Maybe I said, I'm going to push the plate away after this serving, or I'm going to cut down on sweets, or I'm going to make it to the gym, or I'm going to, actually play with my kids the next time they ask me to sit down and play Monopoly. um Nobody knows I'm having this conversation with myself. And so when I break that commitment, that even though it was silent, there's this erosion that's happening, and I don't see myself as a trustworthy person. So of course I can't see anybody else as trustworthy, because I'm not even trustworthy when I look in the mirror. So that is like, in my opinion, the first place to start. Um, I show up when I say I'm going to show up. I go when I say I'm going to go. I don't when and that makes it way more important to say no. That way
Mhm.
you don't have to break a promise later on. Yeah, that's to me, self-trust is the key to the rest of it.
And I like that word you also used there when you said erosion,
Mhm.
because that trust does seem to erode away. Erosion is it's there, but as the life goes by, as the stream goes by, it takes a little bit away each time. And
Mhm.
then it's less and less. And then don't we also hear people sometimes say, well, yes, but that's not what I meant. I meant this instead of that. But here was the same result, which could again be an eroded path. And
Mhm.
we have to build it within our own heart, mind, our soul, so that we can catch on to it. And this isn't, as I talk about, people think about achieving unity is, oh, that's that nicey stuff. That's that flowery stuff. And it's not, it's strong and it's powerful. And that's like trust. So,
Yeah.
oh, yes, you can trust me unless something comes up, that pain versus pleasure. If I do stay with what I said, I'm going to have pain here. So that erosion kicks in fairly quickly, doesn't it?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that stood out about what you just said is the trust and unity and these words like that, they are easy to kind of, just sort of, sure. We kind of put it over in a category like, yeah, they're important, but what do they even really mean, right? And so obviously the work you're doing, the work I do with trust, uh, there's a lot to both of those words, and you could spend a lifetime trying to work on unity just in and of itself and trust. And so they're not words to be written off because they're really not easy
and
to deal with.
and that is so true, so strong because even unity itself is the power, the strength of
Mm.
encouraging, inspiring, and including others personally and professionally. And that is so strong that people don't think about. It's not about giving money at the street corner to somebody who's holding a bag out there. That is nice. Don't take me wrong. That's very nice of you to do that. But unity is so much stronger. And then trust, like you're saying. Sometimes it's that simple thing that says, I'll pick you up at 6. I'll come get you in the morning and I won't be late because I know you have an important meeting. But
Mhm.
if you don't do that, as you mentioned, that trust erodes, right?
Mhm.
That erosion
Mhm.
starts there.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely.
Do you have any maybe daily or periodic habits that you continue to do to help you stay aligned and maybe trust yourself more?
Yes. For me, the first place that I would suggest if you want to start with this work is journaling. And you don't have to be a poet or a writer. You don't have to journal long, long pages. I actually started with jot journaling. So just
Mhm.
very quick thoughts, whatever poured out. And the reason for it was I wanted to reflect on my day. So I don't necessarily do it every day in the morning and evening anymore. I think it's sort of just something I'm doing internally now. But when I had to start the habit, I had like a morning rhythm of how am I feeling? How do I feel like yesterday went? Where did I feel disappointed? Just sort of like just reflection and awareness and building up that muscle of awareness. And then at the end of the day, I would look at what do I feel really proud of? What do I
Uh,
feel a little disappointed in? Where do I see the opportunity? And where's the gratitude? Because I think for someone who's in a position who wants to grow any personal professional development, it's really easy to keep raising the bar. And without the gratitude, it becomes really lopsided. And, you can see yourself as like, oh, I'm never getting there. So it's both. It was really important for both sides to be acknowledged. So I would say if you need to do it daily, great. If you can only do it a couple times a week, that's better than nothing. But that reflection process to build that awareness muscle is absolutely where I would start in the self-trust journey.
that is excellent. Again, the way you use words is so powerful. And as you called that trust muscle, because that awareness muscle, it's
Mhm.
something just like each of us, where we walk, we run, we lift weights, it's building muscles
Yeah.
and making us stronger. And that's where that trust can come in, that awareness to
Yeah.
become aware and to build that muscle.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny you talk about that. I'm very IT oriented. I'm harassed often by my family because of how much time I spend on the computer. Of course,
Mhm.
now I've got multiple monitors and a nice little ottoman here to put my feet up on while I'm working. I can take my keyboard away from it. And I
Yeah.
also have a phone that does all that voice recognition. So
Uh,
some of the things that you're talking about, that journaling, I just hit my phone and hit the microphone on it, and I journal to my phone.
yep. Yep.
I send myself messages
Hmm.
that, of course, I have a way I can see my phone on my computer, like a lot of people can, and I can go through those things. That journaling that we need, and it helps, I think, I think it helps make it more solid to write it down,
Hmm.
break it down, write it down. Review its dependency. That's another talk I have on my development management side, but about listen and dialogue, break it down, write it down, review its dependencies and get it done. And
Yeah.
so that same journaling, like you're talking about, that might help us get there, right?
Yeah, 100%. I love what you said about reviewing it. If you want to verbally process your day, that's great. I prefer to handwrite things. I have like my favorite pen and I have my favorite journal, but whatever is your flavor, that's great. It's the act of doing it. And then what you said, I love it. Going back and reviewing. Um, I didn't do that often in the beginning, but there have been some really crucial moments where I've gone back and looked at maybe a journal entry from 6 months ago or a year ago or a few years ago. And you want to talk about gratitude, like being in the work on a consistent basis. It feels like you're taking baby steps every day. But when you can look back over time and distance and see how far you've come, or even things that you were worried about back then that you made it through and they're in the rearview mirror, that is such a powerful practice to reflect and review. And then you can also say if you're still journaling about the same thing that you were, 6 months ago or a year ago, well, there's probably an opportunity to get a little bit more intentional and dial in some, extra practices around that.
I like how you say that, some extra practices. Another thing that's kind of funny, now we're not together anymore, but we're still friends. But my ex and I, we talked about that. And I, how would you say, I merge a lot of the things I do in business
Mm-hmm.
with my personal life. And that's some of what I do when I talk about achieving unity. And one of the processes about retrospectives that I use in business, I try to work with my journaling also, as we were just talking about, is when you journal, I look at it and say, what worked today?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What didn't work today? And what can I do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that I can just, oh, that was only a small maneuver. I can guide a little bit different. Or, and I do use the word project because everything we do is a project. If you have
Mm-hmm.
people that have the Project Management Institute, it's everything's a project, beginning and end and a result.
Mm-hmm.
So any of these things that you journal, sometimes they're minor changes. I shouldn't have eaten that third donut. You can judge on that.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
sometimes there are projects. Sometimes it's, well,
Yeah.
I do need to put in another exercise routine. Sometimes I do need to get up a little bit earlier to get there on time. But in that journaling, what worked? What didn't work? What
Mm-hmm.
can I improve? Right?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, something that I think about and with the people that I talk to, it's a challenge for some of us and a bigger challenge for me as well as some of the others. But sometimes with what you did and you got together with your husband, you got started. We talked earlier about your seed of greatness. How can our audience, if we talk to them, what are some things that they might be able to do to start rebuilding their trust in their relationship they might feel maybe it's a little bit broken, a bit distant? What are
Mm-hmm.
some seeds that they might be able to plant and nurture to help grow it forward?
Oh, such a good question. Um, we
Okay.
talked about having those conversations. One of the things I mentioned was setting those sort of guidelines or boundaries around the way that you want to have the conversation. Um, I would highly recommend if you are going to consciously step into a process to rebuild and try some, like, hey, we know we want to make this work. We know we want to get closer. Where do we even start? I would, and if you don't feel comfortable verbally saying this to your partner, I would write it down. I would write down a commitment. Like, I'm committed to making this work. This is what I desire for us. This is what I want for us. And just setting that vision and intention on the front end for you as a unit. I think it's really easy to jump straight away to here's what I want you to do better as my partner. Where we're like in a sort of like I'm pointing fingers attitude. So I would start with setting an intention and committing to this new vision and having each of you do that and share that with one another, either written or verbal. And in doing that, we talked about expectations, releasing all expectations that your partner is going to say it the way that you said it, or say as much as you said, or maybe as poetically as you said it, right? Just be thankful that you're even in the practice, and release the expectations of what you think they're going to come back to the table with, because I've been there and done that and it doesn't go well and I'm always bummed out. Um, and then don't try to set those expectations and boundaries in the heat of the moment, right? It's like, hey, when we're doing good and we're in a really solid spot, or maybe we go out to lunch and we set time aside, here's our goals, or here's how often we're going to sit down and talk. Maybe we can try to lean into this a couple times a week, or whatever that looks like. I would have that conversation about the new practice when everything's good, because trying to set those boundaries and guidelines in the heat of the moment is just a recipe for disaster. So do that at a separate time. And then, great, that's the win for today. Another day comes, now we can engage and sort of start to open Pandora's box. And we've got our guidelines set from a previous day, and we just, obviously try to adhere to those and take breaks when you need them.
I like that. And to take those breaks. And I see where you talk about living in alignment and helping us with that process. How can our listeners spot when they truly are aligned, or possibly when they're not aligned, but maybe not able to quite admit it?
Yeah.
Can you help us?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good question. It's all the same conversation, right? It's all the same trust conversation. And it's the same thing. Reflect. In your reflection time, in your review time, whatever that looks like for you, being honest with yourself and looking back and saying, okay, I have a picture of the person that I want to be. Did this action or, outcome, or the way that I said this or how I showed up, does that align with the picture of who I want to be in my mind? Now we have to be honest. Yes, it did, or no, not so much. And if it did, great, let's celebrate. And if not so much, then there's your question, right? What can I do about it? But you have to be honest in that reflection time. And it's subtle. It's so subtle. For me, it was. That's how I got out of alignment, because it was just these tiny micro compromises that I had made for so long, and I didn't see it because I wasn't reflecting and reviewing and trying to grow. But it's almost like reticular activating system. It's like, oh, I want a black SUV, and now I see them everywhere. The minute you make the decision that you're going to grow and improve and work on these muscles, I believe you'll start to notice. You'll start to feel a little, maybe like a twinge in your gut, or you'll start to feel kind of like a ugh feeling when you're out of alignment. And when you're in it, oh my gosh, you're energized, you're excited. That felt great. I feel proud of who I am. I matched that vision in my mind. Yeah, and that review process kind of like doubles down on both sides.
It does. I think you explained that very well. I like that process. But if you don't mind, I'm going to look at, well, first, before I touch on that, I like what you said also about honesty and truth, because
Yeah.
all of this has to work on honesty and being truthful.
Mm.
We want to be open, polite, professional, respectful, be open and honest, and be able to tell the truth in each of those. I like
Yeah.
how you said that. But if you don't mind, I want to take us to what I might call leadership and balance,
Mhm.
because you've been through a lot, you've come up strong. Well, and kind of going with our theme this month, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur, you're a strategist, you have a dog the size of a horse. How do you balance all those roles without losing yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, some days I don't, and some days I drop all the juggling balls, and myself is nowhere to be found. But on the days that it's working, I like the word rhythm. The same mentor who shared that previous quote with me, he had this way of explaining balance. And sometimes when you feel like you're on a tightrope and you have to balance, it's a very tense, fragile environment, right? And I feel like I need to balance my way across the tightrope. And so rather than feeling like I need to do that every day, because it doesn't often work out well, I look at rhythms and seasons. And if I can kind of stay in tune with the rhythm of my life and what's happening, and I can be honest about the season that I'm in, then I can flow uh with the current of my life instead of trying to, go against it. Like right now, my kids just went back to school this week, and so they've been home all day every day for 2 months. And I was honest about that season, right? Like I'm not going to launch anything big and new. Like actually we did launch a new event, but it took a lot of work. So I can be really like have a healthy assessment of like what is this season? What is the rhythm and the cadence of my life right now so that I can just feel grateful for what is happening. And now we're in a really like the fall is usually a really busy time for us. My husband's on the road a lot more, the kids are back in school, so there's a lot of, just a lot. It's a lot of activities and things happening in a really good way. But then now we know like, hey, there's going to be some late nights, there's going to be some early mornings, there's going to be some extra workload, and we're not mad at each other and disappointed that we didn't hit date night every single week because we understand the season and the rhythm that we're in. And as long as we can kind of like the other day, we snuck away and our Monday meeting was actually turned into a lunch date. And that's fine
Oh, fine.
because that worked out great. And Friday night, he's not even home because he's in another state. And so that there's no date night this week, but that's fine because we're just going in rhythm and in sync with this season. So yeah, I like that word a little bit better than balance feels stressful.
It is. And that rhythm, for those of us, I love music, and it
Mm.
has that rhythm in that music. That is great thinking. It's a great portrayal of what you're going through and what you're thinking about. Well, tell me, what lessons maybe from parenting have made you a better leader?
A lot. The number one thing that stands out as a parent, well, there's two. The first one is when you can see how much of yourself is in your kid, and you're like, man, I was just like that. And so we it's sort of like some humble pie sometimes, right? It's like I can be as frustrated at them as I want to be, but I was the same way. Um, and so it's a good mirror. I think parenting is another great mirror, just like entrepreneurship. And then a really great leadership lesson is there are times when I just like totally get it wrong, like flat out got it wrong. And
Yeah,
I don't have to, I've learned to go and apologize to my kids. And I never had that growing
that's
up.
awesome.
Yeah, I can't
Mhm.
really remember a time when my mom would or dad would say sorry. Now, they were amazing people. We're just like having a little bit more conscious conversations around our house. And so if I blow up and yell, I try my best to come back around and say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. Like I misunderstood the situation or whatever. And so I hope that I'm showing them that it's okay to apologize to the people that you lead. That if mom realizes that she gets it wrong sometimes, and that can absolutely be applied to teams and people that you lead and coworkers and everybody. I mean, the ability to apologize and acknowledge where you got it wrong is a big, big deal.
It is, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. And of course, my kids are already they're out of college, they're on in their careers, and it's fun sometimes for my son just to start talking about things. And I apologize to him on my parenting. I
Mm,
could have done that better. I wish I would have known.
mm.
There's a song about I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wish
yeah.
so many things I
Yeah.
wish I would have known then. that I didn't know. Because, like
Hmm.
you said, I have both of my parents are great. My mother gave me a great positive attitude. But when I think back about it, I can think, wait a minute, that wasn't positive. But
Hmm.
overall, they were great. And I do want to say that I look up to you and your husband that you do have that rhythm, that you do take that time for that middle of the week lunch. And as you mentioned, sometimes a weekend, and a lot of us still look at weekends and say, hey, that's the time for us to be together, but sometimes we can't.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, well, we only have about 5 minutes left, 4.5 minutes left. Brittany, I have truly enjoyed this. Do you have any closing comments or thoughts that you might want to share with us about all these great things that you're doing? You've talked about a lot of things that we need to do. What would you like to say to close?
Yeah, a great question. I mean, obviously, I'd love to connect with anybody who's interested in connecting. You can go to my website. I've got all of my social media handles are there at the bottom of my website. It's just my first and last name.com. Go ahead, opt in. I don't do my newsletter all the time, but that's also changing, so you'll hear from me a lot more regularly. Um, so any way that you'd like to be connected, obviously, if you want to go watch my TEDx talk, it's on YouTube. It's How to Trust Yourself and Others. Um, and and I would just say, like, I mean, I sort of already said it, but I think I would encourage anyone listening who feels like, oh, those things sound amazing. I have no idea where to start. Um, I get it. 0 to 1 is incredibly hard. And I actually, from that book that I mentioned, she told the story about this woman who she was very sick and there was a lot of complications. And the short of it is she ended up drinking a glass of water every morning before she did anything else because she figured if I can keep this one tiny commitment to myself, then that shows me I can do, everything else that I'm trying to do. And I did. I started with that. I would wake up before coffee, before my smoothie, before anything else. I would drink a glass of water before anything else because I told myself that I would. And it was this really symbolic representation for me of like, I'm committed to this process. So if you don't have any idea where to start tomorrow morning, drink a glass of water before you do anything else, just to anchor that in and remind yourself, I'm on this journey, even if it's a baby step every day, because I know over time and distance, I will look back and be so grateful for all of the hard conversations, decisions, choices that I made. And it actually turned out to be a really beautiful choice.
That is beautiful. Brittany, thank you so much because, as you said, no matter how small the step, that still takes you forward. Thank you again for being such a powerful, transparent, and inspiring guest on today's episode.
Oh, I
Your
appreciate it.
willingness to share your journey from broken trust and burnout to alignment to healing to success gave us a real world roadmap to rethink how we do life and leadership. Your insights on rebuilding trust, both personally and professionally, and growing a business through authentic public speaking, I think will resonate deeply with each and all of our listeners. Just love how you share that with us. And to find out more, and I'm sorry to have your LinkedIn profile here, just saying, and that's why I was thinking earlier, wait a minute, was it a LinkedIn profile or was it your name?
It's
I have
okay.
your LinkedIn profile on my notes, but
No,
it
it's
is
great.
www.brittnystinson.com. Reach out to her. Our journeys are a powerful reminder that unity, trust, and culture, as Brittany talked about, begins within through self awareness, resilience, and the willingness to grow from these failures. And we all do fail. Life is not perfect, but we can grow from it. Today's message perfectly mirrors the Achieving Unity Success formula, turning chaos into clarity, isolation into inclusion, and broken trust into powerful collaboration. You heard what Brittany talked about. We can all do better working with others. We cannot do it alone. We are a team. We are unity. That's how we go forward. We must remember that unity isn't just an ideal, as we talked about earlier. It's not an ideal. It's a daily choice to lead with empathy, act with integrity, and uplift yourself and others along the way. So if you felt a spark with anything I've said today, please talk to me, contact me, rockentrican.com. Call me at 303 Focused with trust and culture that we learned through Brittany. Brittany Stinson, www.brittanyStinson.com. Contact her, contact her on LinkedIn. We have truly enjoyed all of you today. Until next time, let us continue turning chaos into connection. Let us keep achieving unity. We can stay focused as we are achieving unity by harnessing that strength, that power of encouraging, inspiring, and including others, building better businesses, better lives, and a better world. Life is truly what we make it, so let's make it awesome together in unity. Thank you all. Thank you, Brittany, so much for being here, for your message, helping others, for your time and your commitment. Appreciate you, Brittany.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Hope to see you all again here next week. Thank you again. Till then, cheers.